Nathaniel Luz is the CEO and co-founder of FlinkApp, where he leads the team in creating top-notch financial solutions for businesses. He's also the brain behind Checkwa, a savings and contributions app that follows the order of the traditional Nigeria adjust system. Prior to founding his own startups, Nathaniel worked with several organizations like Paxful, Dash, YOLO Group. He authored Digitize the Cash and Bitcoin is Cash, two books that provide comprehensive insights into the innovative solutions offered by cryptocurrency and blockchain in the modern banking industry. He's currently on his third book, Yaba no be Silicon Valley, which contains a timely message for all startup founders and entrepreneurs in Africa. Nathaniel Luz is a dynamic and inspiring leader who fosters a culture of innovation, collaboration, and excellence within his company. Please join me to welcome Mr. Nathaniel Luz.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This feels like homecoming, actually. Yeah, this feels so much like homecoming. Thank you so much, Michael, Jerry, HK, and the BuidlCon team. Okay, so I'm going to be speaking a bit on building in chaos. Yeah, how many of you agree that what we're passing through right now in Nigeria, Africa is chaotic? You turn left, right, electricity is going up, Japa happening, everything is happening at the same time. It's chaotic. But what also happens in periods of chaos is wealth transfer, right? So let's go back a bit. So big banks, today, a good amount of the fugas. Some of these guys founded the fugas in their early 30s. It was a period of intense coerce. As Oduduwa came up, raised bank recapitalization in 2006, 25 billion. People were running hell together, but these guys were young. Do you understand? Every wealth transfer that has happened during a period of chaos. My only concern is that we have a period of chaos that we are spending so much of complaining and murmuring and not building what we should be building. I think we have lesser builders than we should. I mean, for a country like Nigeria with problems in almost anywhere you turn, I think we need more builders. I think we need more startups. Right? I mean, I see a future whereby we're going to have a whole lot of builders. I see a future whereby we're going to have a whole lot of startups, a whole lot of products come out of this decade. Because this is when we don't even know what the exchange rate is going to be tomorrow. And by the way, an unstable exchange rate is even worse than a high dollar to naira rate. Because, I mean, it's instability. I mean, you do importation. You don't know what it's going to be like next month. And that's what we're facing. But I want us for once to just step out of this and just see the opportunities that come in this decade. Right? Several years ago, I gave predictions and said, we're going to see wealth transfer. But even me, I didn't know that wealth transfer actually meant that some companies were going to go down and new guys are going to come up. I mean, for heaven's sake, how would money change hands? Right? All over the world, you see rich establishments and you see the rich people. It's only in Africa it is reversed. You see the rich people are looking for the companies, you might not find it. Right? But ideally, if there has to be a wealth transfer, it means the establishment that holds this wealth, some of them would go down and new ones would come up, and that transfer would happen. It's a very painful thing, but I'm here to announce that we've not even started seeing startups failing. And we're going to see more startups fail from Q3, Q4, like we're going to see more startups fail than you can think of. It's a painful thing, but also realize as some are going down, some are coming up. So you have to decide where you want to be on the pendulum. Right? Generally, I am of the opinion that people should get paid employment, get a couple of experience before launching out into the deep on their own, because startup not easy, But I think I would have to suspend that principle because we are in a period where we need a whole lot of startups. We need more builders than we can think of. We need a whole lot of innovations. Like, we need people thinking out of the box. And when I mean out of the box, I don't mean people thinking to solve some kind of problem that doesn't exist. For instance, like someone trying to solve just lash out at anybody already knows because this has been recorded. But we need people that are going to be solving real African problems. And what I think would happen in the next 15 years is that we're going to see people starting startups, funding the startups in collectives, and the startups exiting to the global market. Do you understand? So what I'm looking for is, aside from people starting startups, what we also lack is, so starting a startup, building a business is like planting a seed. One major thing we lack in this part of the world is the people to water that seed. right? So if you just have a seed planted, if nobody's watering it, I mean, it would not, if you plant 1,000 seeds without looking after any of them, you'd be lucky to get 10 to harvest at the end of the day. So I foresee an Africa that is funded by Africans. I foresee a future of African startups whereby we come together to fund African startups. Right? I know a lot of people want to say, oh, we're not doing startup, we're not building because there's nobody to fund and there's nobody to support. For heaven's sake, where do you think the help is going to come from? Yes, I believe help is coming to Africa because one of the help we see globally is that all these debts they say we owe, they have to cancel it at least 80%, because nobody's going to pay anything. So we are going to see external help, but before that comes, we need to grow our own help from the inside. We need to build our own in from the inside. Check every country. See, every continent had its own time. Asia had its time, and there was a time when the entire UAE they had just 2 universities. Right? In fact, and the UAE wanted some countries to invest. They went to meet those countries, and those countries actually told them that we cannot invest in the desert. Now, if they ask us to check between Dubai and those countries, where is the desert? We all know. You understand what I mean? I mean, every continent had its time. There was a time where Asia was super poor. America had its own period of wars and fights and all of that. Every continent had its time. And I personally believe that this gives us the opportunity for the time for Africa. But whether or not we take an opportunity is also dependent on us. Right? I mean, that you gain admission and did matric, it doesn't mean you graduate. You understand? It doesn't actually mean. So what we assume to be is, I mean, if it's time for Africa, everybody had their own time, so we should have our own time and watch it. But no, we need the builders. This is a clarion call to builders. We need more people planting things like never before. We need people building. And I'm not looking for people that just started building an idea and are trying to raise $2 million tomorrow. They're actually playing because no African startup actually passed through that line. So I think when we're building, we need to be realistic. And one thing of being realistic is we need to go down to who are the people that have done this before, the pay stacks. What did they do that made them succeed? The African startup that actually, I mean, in the fintech space, Paystack is still like the only one that has exit in Nigeria that we really like. So we have to really look at what did they do differently, what was their valuation at every stage. You can't be starting an idea and be telling me that you value at XYZ period something. Right? And another thing we have to look at is, I love Elon Musk. I personally think he's the greatest entrepreneur to have existed in this century. You can argue that, but just have a look at what he's building. Most of it is hardware. For him to make his company, all they have to do is make one mistake. Can you imagine if there was a hardware misconfiguration in Starlink and they have to retrieve all the Starlinks they have shipped all across the world? Or Tesla? Or SpaceX? Just think of any of it, Hyperloop, Neuralink. Can you just imagine one mistake happening? Right? But one thing we must learn from his story was he didn't sleep and wake up and say he wanted to build a SpaceX or a Tesla or a Hyperloop and all of that. The first thing he built was PayPal. Solve something that was a problem for everybody every day. Right? Solve the problem of payments, international payments, all of that with PayPal. Exited PayPal, and that exit of PayPal became the seed. I mean, he didn't found Tesla. He wasn't among the initial co-founders. He just brought money to the table and became co-founder. There's the money I'll give half it now. I'll become co-founder tomorrow morning. It was that kind of money he brought. Just bring the money to the table and And today he can now take higher risks. What we are seeing in Africa is people want to be building the Teslas, the SpaceX, the Starlink without building the PayPals. Right? And I'm going to end on this note. We've really had a lot of great businesses in this part of the world, right? Just ask your parents that what were the top companies in their time. You don't see those businesses 2 generations later. And the problem was because just as the exit of PayPal became the seed for SpaceX and the likes, the exit here is to collect a chieftaincy title, retire to the village, and just settle and say you are retired. I don't understand what people mean by retirement because Bill Gates is not retired. Elon, I don't know, you understand what I mean? I mean, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, those guys, where did they retire to? People that are still, if you look at their schedule and your schedule, you will know that those guys are still. So what do people mean by retirement? So we have a tradition that encourages people to build something, exit it, and not plant that seed back. As a matter of fact, it's the problem with the Web3 industry today in Nigeria. The guys who started Web3 when we started, plenty, he had Dr. say 8 years ago, a very long time ago. Those guys today, they have built ecosystems in their place that now fund the next generation. But in Africa, where are those guys? I have a question. Why do the likes of Zenith and GT not invest in Ecuador? I mean, ideally, in my head, that's what should have happened. Right? Why are the guys that have settled in an industry not invested in that startup? Anyway, let's not not dwell too much on the problems. At the roundup, I just want to give a charge to everybody. Let's go back to building. And this is the period for building. This is the period for building. This is planting season again. Across Africa, the next 5, 10, 15 years, the people who start planting now would see the result in the next 10 to 15 years. But it's time to plant. Unless you are planning to Japa, which is not bad by the way, and for people that are planning to go, we think you should go on time so that we can finally take census of all of us that are remaining here. We can have our number, like me, I should be like number 2 million or something, you know. So we just know our numbers, you know, and we know that it's our responsibility to build. It's our responsibility to build. I think every continent passed through these things. In China, it was worse because they had one-child policy. They had all kind of, you know. I mean, Africa is not worse in Africa. I wouldn't say that. Continent had to go through this. So I just want to end this by saying this is a call to builders. It's a call to builders. So go and pick your hoes, go and pick your shovels, go and get your seeds. It's planting season again. Thank you very much.